is this idea that somewhere out there, there's a group of people who will understand you instantly, who share your values and interests, and who will make you feel like you finally belong. You are searching for your tribe and the people that you are meant to be with. But the problem is that your grandparents probably never searched for their people because they already had people, like neighbors, coworkers, family, or people from a religious organization. Now, were all of these people perfectly compatible with them? No. Did they all share the same interests and values? Probably not. But they were their people anyway, not because they were chosen based on compatibility, but because they were just there. And previous generations, who never searched for their tribe, probably had more community than we do. They had people who they could borrow eggs from and who would watch their kids, people they would see at weekly gatherings whether they felt like it or not. Meanwhile, we are searching for the perfect compatibility and ending up very alone. The way that we think about community has fundamentally changed over the years, and that change has made genuine community so much harder to build. We have replaced proximity-based community with choice-based community, and the result is not better community. It's actually more loneliness disguised as high standards. Now, to talk about this, we are going to talk about a German author. So please forgive me if I mispronounce anything. The sociologist Ferdinand Tönnies made a crucial distinction in the late 19th century between Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, or community and society. Gemeinschaft refers to social bonds based on proximity, kinship, and shared life. It's essentially a village or the extended family. People are bound together by the simple fact that they live near each other and depend on one another. In Gemeinschaft, you don't necessarily choose your community, but instead your community is determined by where you were born, who your family is, and what neighborhood you live in. You are embedded in relationships that existed before you, and your relationships are not based on whether people share your interests, but instead they are based on proximity and necessity. Gesellschaft refers to social bonds based on the rational self-interest and voluntary association. It's essentially the modern open life, where relationships are chosen rather than given. Now, you are friends with people because you enjoy their company, and everything is voluntary, based on a mutual benefit for everybody. Now, belonging is always conditional on continuing to provide value or compatibility. Your grandparents lived in something closer to Gemeinschaft. Their community was not based on finding people who perfectly matched their personality. It was based on who lived nearby, went to the same church, or even who worked in the same factory. They did not choose these people. These people were just there, and community formed around the fact of the co-presence. Now, this meant that their community included people who were very different from them, maybe different political views, interests, and personalities altogether. But these relationships still mattered because they were reliable, regular, and part of the fabric of daily life. Now, Aristotle distinguished between 3 types of friendship: utility, pleasure, and virtue. Friendships of utility are based on mutual benefit. You are friendly with your neighbor because it's useful. Friendships of pleasure are based on enjoyment, meaning you simply have fun together. And friendships of virtue are based on mutual recognition of each other's character and shared commitment to living well. But these types of relationships take time, require vulnerability, but can also survive periods where the relationship is not particularly useful or fun. Now, Aristotle said you can only have a few true friendships because they require significant investment, but you can have multiple friendships of utility and pleasure, and these still contribute to a good life. A well rounded life includes all three types. But the problem with modern community seeking is that we have rejected friendships. We're not necessarily interested in being friendly with neighbors just because they're our neighbors, or even interested in casual friendships unless those people deeply get us. We want soul deep connection or nothing. But Aristotle understood that true friendship develops out of proximity and time. You don't find a true friend by searching for perfect compatibility, but instead you develop true friendships by spending time with people in low stakes contexts and gradually building that trust. Friendships of utility and pleasure are the training ground where friendships of virtue develop. But most generations past had all three of these relationships. Neighbors they were friendly with out of mutual benefit, people they did activities with because it was enjoyable, and out of the larger pool, some deepened into genuine friendship. They did not reject the shallow relationships while waiting for deep ones to appear. They participated in all of it, and the participation created the conditions for deeper connection. Now, Barry Schwartz's paradox of choice shows up perfectly in this situation. When you have infinite options for who to be friends with, you are less likely to invest deeply into any particular friendship because you are always aware of the other options. Your coworker might be a little annoying at times, so why invest when there might be someone less annoying out there? Your neighbor is fine, but you don't have tons in common. So why bother when you could just find someone who really gets you? This is search behavior, not community behavior. You're treating friendship like shopping for the perfect product. And the more options you have, the less satisfied you are with whatever you choose because you are always wondering if something better is out there. Your grandparents did not have this problem because they didn't have many options. If their neighbor was annoying, that was still their neighbor. The lack of choice forced investment. You could not opt out of relationships that were not perfect because there was nowhere else to go. And social media, of course, has made this worse because you're not just comparing your relationships to hypothetical alternatives, but instead you're comparing your entire community to everyone else's curated highlight reel. And so now you are aware of all of the people that you could potentially be friends with. And you're also aware that other people's friendships seem better than yours. The comparison is endless and exhausting and makes you unable to appreciate what you actually have. When every relationship is voluntary and conditional, and you're always evaluating whether this is the best use of your time, then you never experience the depth that comes from commitment. A lack of choice forces commitment, and the commitment is what creates the depth. But the problem is that proximity-based community requires skills that we have largely lost over time. Because we actually have to learn to get along with people who might be different from us and who might have different opinions. We might have to navigate disagreements without ending relationships entirely. And we have to tolerate annoyance and imperfection because leaving is not an option. And learning to stay teaches us things that eternal optionality cannot. You learn that people are more than their annoying qualities, and that relationships can actually survive conflict if you give it a chance. And most importantly, you learn that compatibility is less important than reliability. Because showing up matters more than understanding somebody perfectly. But over time, we have become much more fragile if our feelings get hurt or if somebody insults us. When a relationship gets difficult, we tend to leave that relationship. Or if somebody gets on our nerves, we tend to ghost them. Or if you don't click with somebody immediately, you simply move on. The other skill we've lost is building community around activities rather than simply identity. We have shifted to communities organized around identity and affinity, and this creates much weaker bonds because identity is abstract and activities are concrete. It's actually a lot easier to build relationships with people that you do things with rather than people that you simply share values with. The best way to get back to a feeling of community and to defeat this feeling of loneliness that everybody has is being willing to give up the search for the perfection and actually participate in imperfect community instead. Only if we are willing to invest in relationships of proximity and utility and not just hold out for soul deep connections. Only if we are willing to show up repeatedly to the same spaces with the same people, even when it's boring or uncomfortable or not immediately rewarding. The people that we are looking for are not out there waiting to be discovered. They're right next door, down the street at the grocery store. And if you are willing to stop searching and start participating, then maybe our feelings of loneliness and lack of community will start to change. Because communities build friendships, and the longer you participate in difficult friendships, the deeper that relationship might become if you actually give it the chance. So, with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time.